Good afternoon, Maya Kilburn. Welcome on VH Berries.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward.
I am extremely grateful because the chord aligning in the path of your unprocessed lecture of the bow is confusing cheerfulness with the brisk verve born from stage fry. How are you doing today?
Doing really well. How are you?
I am doing very good as well. And you are, on a daily basis, conjugating the verbs sinking, flashing, and moving into a chaplet with a tricolor tint, signing off from a long-distance relationship with the matching echoes of King's Place on 19 York Way.
Yeah, I assume you're talking about the concert that we did. Sorry, are you laughing?
Absolutely, I am referring to that specific event.
Yes, for We Have One World.
Absolutely, Maya Kilburn, and I would love to discuss about that initiative that you joined as a performer and creative director. Can you tell us a little bit more about that charity event?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to clarify, I was not the creative director for this. I was a part of it as a performer, and I believe it to be an excellent cause. The whole idea of We Have One World, and by extension the charity Save the Children UK, the idea of that concert was to have kids for the kids, right? So for Save the Children, raising money for the children, but also most of the people performing in the concert were 18 and under. And so fortunately I got to join in on the concert because they wanted a spotlight artist. And so I had the immense privilege of coming over to London for the very first time and also getting to meet a lot of wonderful people, marvelous players. The level was so high, and it was really beautiful to me to see all of these people coming together for such a wonderful cause. Personally, I'm a huge believer in using your skills wherever they may be, but in my case, music and in the art scene in general, I'm a very big believer in trying to use your skills beyond the concert hall, beyond where they're usually seen, and trying to make a difference in the world. So yeah, I absolutely loved it. Everyone I met was wonderful, and it was just all around, honestly, a very heartwarming experience. So yeah.
It was a heartwarming experience, Maya Kilburn, and that concert called We Have One Word, 5th edition, took place on September the 28th of this year from 6 to 9 p.m. And your diligence towards merit is reminding us every day that we have one note, one stage, and one word.
Yes, exactly.
And how would you describe the moment entering that room, wrapped in amber calm, exactly 1 hour and 5 minutes after the start of the show, under the applause of 420 audience members?
Wow. Honestly, I know, I know for me at least, every performance is different. What never goes away, of course, is the nerves. I have yet to meet anybody who says that they don't get nervous for a performance. So there was that, but there was also a whole lot of excitement, right? I think that this performance in particular held a bit more meaning this time, knowing that, it wasn't just a regular performance, so to speak, that I was doing it for a cause, and that in the process, I was also getting to connect with all of these new people who I would not have met otherwise, right? I was also joined by a wonderful pianist who's actually my partner, and this was our first time getting to perform together, so it always helps to be joined on stage by somebody who you trust, and I think that made for a very fun performance. So I enjoyed it very much. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Maya Kilburn, you were joined on stage by the exceptional pianist Pablo Esquivel Noel, who played in the piano behind you, reading the score from the glow of his tablet computer equipped with a touchscreen. Can you tell us a little bit more about the rehearsal process and how it was like?
Wow. I thought it was very interesting because this was the first time that we really formally worked together in this way for a concert. It really didn't feel that different than rehearsing with another person or another, somebody who's already a close friend of mine. I think that often as professional musicians, we have these different mindsets that we are able to switch into when it's time to get something done and when it's time to work. And so while it was very enjoyable and honestly very relaxed, which I was thankful for, we don't really like panic practicing, in my opinion. That's one of the worst things that you can do. So yeah, I was really happy that it was overall a very calm process, very fun. We laughed a lot. It's always good to not take things so seriously. So yeah, it was wonderful to work with him.
Absolutely, Maya Kilburn. There is absolutely no room for panic practices when it comes to working with the talented Pablo Esquivel Noel. And together you played a piece called the Waxman Carmen Fantasy. Can you tell us a little bit more about this piece of art?
Oh boy. So the Waxman Carmen Fantasy is what we like to call a showpiece. So generally in the music repertoire, in the violin repertoire, there are a lot of these, and showpieces essentially are built to showcase your technique, and it's supposed to be flashy, usually pretty fast. I think you get the idea. So it's not an easy piece of music. I have to say, out of all of the showpieces that I've played in my life, that this might be the most difficult one. But at the same time, I think that through learning how to have fun with it and how to not just be scared of it, because that's also very easy, I think I found a lot of gratification through that process. The piece you probably heard in the title, it's the Waxman Carmen Fantasy. So it's based off of the opera Carmen. And there are, I believe, 3 arrangements of this opera into showpiece form for the violin. So there is one by Sarasate. There's one by Ubay, and there's one by Waxman. So I played the Waxman. And yeah, definitely very flashy, and not the easiest piece, but I'm so glad that I chose this one.
You're glad, Maya Kilburn. to have chosen that specific version, and on stage you performed with a Stradivarius from Florian Leonhard Fine Violins. How was it different from playing with your regular 1710 Alexandro Mazzadri violin?
Wow, yeah, so this was another aspect of that whole experience that was so fun for me, honestly. It was just fun. For me, going into a violin shop and getting to try lots of violins is the equivalent of going into a candy store. I know you laugh and I know how funny it sounds, but it's so true. And so when the people at Florian Leonhard Fine Violins, they told me that they were sponsoring this event and that they would be loaning me a fine instrument, instantly I was so excited because I knew that anything that they recommended to me or that they came up with would be an extraordinary instrument. So I had the privilege of going into the shop, and I ended up going with the Stradivarius. I believe it was made in 1690, and I remember thinking how gorgeous the sound was. It was so dark, and there was such a huge range of colors and dimension, what you could do with the sound. It really just took my breath away. And so I only had it for about 2 days before the concert. So in the days leading up to the event, I was mainly just trying to adjust to that instrument because every violin feels different. They might look pretty similar to you, maybe, but it really does feel so different to the touch. And so I was just trying to learn it, if you will, to see what it responds to. I think it taught me. I always say that violins are like people. It's almost like they have personalities. And some violins will let you know very clearly when you do something that it does not like. So, and it will fight back. And so I spent those days learning how to make this violin happy. And yeah, and I am very fortunate. My normal violin, I can't believe I got to say this, but my normal violin is also an extraordinary instrument. As you said, it is a Mazzadri. It's an old Italian made in 1710. And this one is also on loan to me. I've played on it for the last 5 years, and I have the privilege of playing on it for the next 5 years as well. So it was just such a treat to get to go from one fantastic instrument to another very fantastic, very different instrument. I was in heaven.
You were in heaven, Maya Kilburn, and if I understood correctly, violins can fight back, as this is the instrument the closest to the human voice. And I was very curious and intrigued finding out that your regular instrument is 66 years older than the United States of America and 106 years older than the creation of your home state of Indiana.
It's pretty fascinating to think about, right? I mean, every time I pick it up, I feel like I'm holding a piece of history. I just wish that they had cameras back then and that this violin could tell me everything that it's seen and that it's lived through, because I'm sure it's been a lot.
That instrument has been through a lot of events, and to come back to that charity evening, it was also an opportunity for you to reconnect with your friend, Sumina Studer.
Yes, Sumina is wonderful. I think the world of her. It's actually so funny. because we knew about each other through the world of social media. And she actually studied with one of my teachers at Juilliard, but she was leaving Juilliard just as I was coming in to Juilliard. So we stayed in touch online, but we actually didn't meet until I think a year and a half or 2 years ago, was when we finally met in person. But she's just so much fun. And she's just all around a wonderful person with so many great ideas. I really enjoy talking to her. And so I was, aside from the performance, which I enjoyed very much, I was also very happy to come to London to get to hang out with Sumina, who was a big part of this project as well.
Sumina was an important part of that initiative, Maya Kilburn, and to some extent, that project was a way for you to stay with your classical background and at the same time to pursue a commitment to mentorship and global music education. Can you tell us a little bit more about that specific pursuit and the upcoming step that you will be taking in the space outside of the medium of music?
Wow, yeah. Mentorship. See, this is a big topic for me. I assume you're referring to my work as a violin teacher. So I'll just tell you a little bit about that before I go on. I started teaching roughly around when I was 13 or 14 years old, actually, and it was in the form of master classes. And over the years, I've gained some more experience, so I've been regularly teaching privately for the last 5 or 6 years or so. And through that, I've discovered a number of things, one of which is actually that you learn a lot from your own students. I know there's this whole idea that there's the teacher and then there's the student, and the student is the one who's learning from the teacher, but I actually learn a lot from getting to speak with the students I work with, and the ideas that they often bring up are sometimes ones that I haven't thought of exactly in that way before, which I'm very grateful for. But beyond that, I really have started to see that teaching is an opportunity to pass on your ideals as an artist and to be able to influence a future generation of artists, hopefully in the direction that you would like to see your industry go in, for example. And, I could probably talk for 5 hours about this, but to spare you the lecture, in short, I think that a lot of musicians who I've spoken to wish to see, especially in classical music, wish to see a kinder industry, right? Kinder in the way that it teaches, teaching that is directed more towards the human experience of why music and why art brings so much to our lives, and in teaching in a way that is less sharp-edged, perhaps less cruel at times. And so I've begun to see, while things have been improving in the industry a lot, I can be part of that positive change that I would like to see in the future, by giving that experience to my own students. I hope to continue doing this for my entire career, really. I love it. And, we'll see what happens. Maybe one day I'll open a school. And then we'll look back at this podcast and then we'll be smiling at the conversation we had. But yeah, I think it's a fabulous opportunity that teaching is in. It's a way that you can connect with other people in your industry. In a way, sometimes I don't like using the word student. Because often people associate the word student with they don't know anything or they're less than or something. And I feel that, everyone I've met has some good points and some aspects of themselves that would do a lot of good for the industry. So if we viewed each other as colleagues in this pursuit to build something, I think we'll be golden.
In definitive, Maya Kilburn, you found your ideal cruising speed over time, moving from being very goal-oriented with competition in the classical field to becoming more flexible and encouraging camaraderie and conversation within the industry, at the exception of the Joseph Bologna International Piano Competition opening earlier this year in January.
Yeah, would you like me to talk about that?
Absolutely, Maya Kilburn. I would love to explore that specific event in which you were joined by pianist Dr. Raymond Kilburn.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So this was one concert in the midst of, I honestly can't remember how many there were. I think there were like 11 or 12. But yes, the pianist is my father, Ray Kilburn. I grew up playing with him, and so it certainly was very special to get to do this with him, because ever since I left for New York City, we haven't gotten to play together as much as we used to. So yes, this concert took place at Elon University, and it was last January, I believe. And this concert was also supposed to be kind of the opening for the Joseph Bologna competition, which is a budding international piano competition, in the memory of Joseph Bologna, who was one of many overlooked composers. And he wrote quite a lot of incredible works that actually are not very well known. And so part of the point of this competition was to bring attention to his work. Anyway, my father and I had the privilege of giving a recital at Elon University, and this recital program was the same recital program that we took on the road. We performed in Japan in... Sorry, I'm trying to remember because this was last year. We performed in my mother's hometown of Hamamatsu, which was very special in itself. We performed in Hokkaido, which is the northernmost area of Japan. We performed quite a few places in the US, in the Carolinas, in Indiana, and I believe another place that I might be forgetting. And we also took the program to Costa Rica. So we really hit the road with this one. But it's always such a wonderful experience to share the stage with my father, because again, like I said, with the performance in London and getting to play with my partner, you know, it's always a huge comfort to share the stage with somebody who you have a good relationship with and who you trust. So the very same goes to my father.
It is a comforting moment to share that stage with Dr. Raymond Kilburn. And together, you did a tour that included 3 countries, 9 concerts, and 11 flights. And during that tour, he wrote a message in white shorts that says, "Allez les amis, we got this." A mantra that you remember to this day when climbing the steps of the Juilliard School.
Yeah, actually, you probably saw that picture with the writing, "We got this," on the whiteboard. The funny part about that, because that was from backstage at that concert, actually, the concert at Elon University, we didn't write that. That was already there. when we got there, and we actually had about a 5-minute conversation before going on stage, wondering who wrote it, if it was meant to be encouraging to us or if it was from a previous performance and they were trying to encourage themselves. I guess we'll never know, but it was nice to see before going on stage all the same.
That sentence is now a ritual and a quote that you're keeping in mind, and I would love to explore the subject of the Juilliard School because you're currently finishing a master under Donald Wallerstein and Catherine Shaw. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yes, so Juilliard has been my home for the last 5 years. This is year number 6, so it's going to be 6 years by the end of May. I came to Juilliard originally when I was 17 years old to start my bachelor's. It's a very long story, but I graduated from high school a year early and I came to start my bachelor's. And I started with the same 2 teachers, with Catherine Cho and with Donald Weilerstein. And I just loved them so much that I had to stay for master's. So now I'm in my 2nd year of my master's degree. I really could not ask for 2 better mentors. And I really say this as meaningfully as possible. They, as a combination, a lot of people ask me, oh, you're being team taught. Do they disagree? Maybe you feel like you're being pulled in one direction with one teacher and that the other teacher wants something else and that you don't know how to find a medium between that. And actually, my experience with them has been the very opposite. I believe this is to do with the fact that neither of them ever really tell me how to play. They never tell me how I have to do something or how I have to sound. They will give me their opinions, but at the end of the day, I've realized that they both try to help me find my own voice and help me lean into my own instincts and my own opinions as an artist. And I think that's just golden. I'm so fortunate to have both of them, both as a musician, as a human, and also as a human being. They're both just such kind people. And I know that they have my back and they're so present with me. So I'm very thankful.
Those 2 mentors helped you, Maya Kilburn, to find your voice. And it seems that you went from having your strawberries weekly at Farmers Market at Minestrista in North Muncie to having them daily in the Tucker Square Green Mark in the Petite Triangle Park facing the Alice Tully Hall.
Yes, I have no idea how you know that I went to the Minestrista Farmers Market as a little girl, but yes, that's for those of you who don't know, that's from my hometown back in Indiana. I grew up in a small town, and every weekend my mom would take me to the farmers market, and yes, the strawberries were definitely a staple.
Furthermore, Maya Kilburn, on top of all of those strawberries, we will soon witness the creation of the Maya Kilburn Theatre inside Juilliard, with its parallel sets of emergency stairs used for common exit, but also useful for students when practice rooms are all busy.
Oh my God. I thought you were serious for a second. I was like, I never heard that they were creating a theater in my honor, but yeah, the practice rooms.
I am referring to the stairs because one very notorious videos that you did is a one in which you're practicing in those emergency stairs.
Yes, about that. So one thing about Juilliard that honestly I think everybody knows at this point, that I've heard from alumni from the past, that apparently this has not changed since 1980. So I doubt that it will ever change, but there are never enough practice rooms, which is a good sign, I guess, because it means that everybody's trying to work hard. But it's also not great if you're one of those people who wants to work hard and you're at school and you cannot find a space to practice. So one of those days, I tried to get a practice room, and I couldn't. And I really had to practice because I had a lesson and I had all of these things. And I was telling myself, I cannot afford to skip a day of practicing right now. So I found the nearest space possible, which was the stairwell. I unpacked my violin and I started playing scales. At first it occurred to me, maybe I don't want all of these people being able to hear me practice, because it's so echoey in there and so it's so loud. But at the same time, I was just kind of like, well, I have to get this done. And so I may as well just choose to not be embarrassed about it and go on with my day. And if people want to listen, then they're welcome to listen, but I will be here practicing. So yeah. And I have to say that ever since then, I have run into a number of people who have been doing the same thing. So I know that if there's somebody practicing in the stairwell, it means that there are no practice rooms. I'm wondering if that'll be a universal thing, but yes.
Absolutely, Maya Kilburn. The echo got louder when 5.4 million people saw it on TikTok.com.
Yeah, that's for sure. Secretly, I was hoping that maybe that would encourage Juilliard to build some more practice rooms. But so far, they have not made any announcements. So maybe I just have to post another video and see what happens.
You will need to post numerous new videos to change the practice room construction plan. And what would you say are your current goals and aspiration for the remaining of this year and the following one?
Wow, that's a loaded question. So for the remainder of this year, when you said year, my brain went to school year, but then I realized that most people don't think in terms of school years when they're not in school anymore. So for the remainder of my time at Juilliard, which will be until May 2026, when I graduate with my master's degree, I would say, I'm really just trying to soak in the rest of the time as much as possible. I'm trying to get as much as I can from the instruction with my wonderful teachers. I can't believe that soon I'm not going to be a student anymore. So as excited as I am for that time, I also want to make the most of, the ending of this era as it is. I'm really trying to take advantage of also the orchestra program at Juilliard, which is wonderful. We're going to be playing some fun pieces the rest of this year. And so I'm really looking forward to that and to playing with the wonderful colleagues at school. Everyone there is so talented, so full of potential, so full of ideas. And it's honestly one of my favorite places to be surrounded by that energy. So yes, until May 2026, I will be concentrating on that. But also, after I graduate, it's so funny because people have asked me, oh, what do you want to do after you graduate? from your master's? And I feel that answer has transformed over the last 2 years, and really over the last 5-6 years. If you had asked me when I first started at Juilliard, or even before Juilliard, I would have told you I'm going to be a soloist. I feel like maybe that's a typical answer for a violinist. But that really was what I was concentrated on, and I used to do a ton of solo work, and I still do a fair amount. But then after I came to Juilliard, I found that I really loved orchestra and I really loved chamber music, so I started thinking, oh, maybe I would like to be a principal player or a concertmaster of a really good orchestra one day. And while I may still choose to do that a number of years down the line, I actually feel that right now, at least in the year immediately after graduating from my master's, I want to take this time to really explore, right? Outside of the lens of being a student and being in school. I say that because sometimes I do feel that school and the school environment can be, in a way, a safety net or a barrier between you and the rest of the real world, if you will. And, of course, there's always the concern of, how am I going to make a living and how am I going to make ends meet and everything. That is very common amongst artists, especially. But truthfully, I want to take this time to explore my potential and to explore the range of ideas that I might come up with when I'm on my own and I have the freedom and the time to do so. I'm very curious about studying overseas, perhaps somewhere in Europe, because the school of teaching music over there is actually very different from how it is done in the US. So I feel that would be very wise for me. Of course, with the teaching, that's something that I want to keep up, and really I just want to take this time to perform and explore. The performing, I know for a fact that I never want to stop performing. That will always be in my DNA as an artist and as a musician. I know that a lot of people think of the stage as this scary thing. And while it can be scary at times, I do feel like I'm viewing it lately as less of an enemy and more of a friend, in that I can experience so many wonderful things up there. And meet so many people and see so many different places around the world because of my work. So I know that's a lot, but in short, I just want to explore. I want to be open as an artist. I want to be open to new collaborations, to other genres. I don't want to stay in my safe little box. And yeah, I guess we'll see what happens.
You may want to visit Ferrara, the city in Italy's Emilia-Romagna region, in which your 1710 Alessandro Mezzadri was constructed. And in conclusion, I am looking forward to witness the Kilburn signature message delivered loud and clear to humanity that communicates an anthem centered less around perfection and more around meaning and acceptance. Thank you very much, Maya Kilburn.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really nice to chat with you today.